If your doctor or physical therapist is still using this test to clear you from ACL rehab, that's a huge red flag. In this video, I'm going to break down 6 different ways for you to test your muscle strength, power, and athleticism so that you can confidently graduate from ACL rehab. Today, I'm going to break down exactly the test that I use personally for my ACL clients to safely and confidently getting them back to their sports and activities. By the end of this video, you'll have clarity on what to do next in your rehab. Hi, my name is Josh. I'm a physical therapist and strength and conditioning coach for nearly a decade. I've helped over 80 ACL individuals successfully graduate with confidence back to their sport, back to their physical activities. Welcome to the video. We're going to break things down for you very simple today. We're going to break it down by cost, by portability, accessibility, and exactly how you can implement this in your own day-to-day rehab. So first thing here, we're looking at the old way, right? So the old way, we're looking at MMT. So what I mentioned before, manual muscle testing. This is when an examiner, like in this picture, pushes into your leg, right? So pushes into your leg and tells you to push, 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 and they're gonna try to hold your leg back. This should be avoided, right? This should be very avoided. This is something that was done maybe 20, 30 years ago because we didn't have any technology or data back then. So if you are thinking of graduating from ACL rehab and your therapist or your doctor is still doing this, this is definitely not enough, okay? This is no way that you can know exactly how strong you are if you're ready to go back to sports and activities just by pushing into someone's leg, okay? So we're gonna move on from that. Hopefully you never have to see this again. The second thing that is very common still is that surgeons, doctors will use muscle bulk as a way to tell if you're strong enough to go back to your sports. This is not a valid way to measure someone's strength just by looking at muscle bulk. I've had many clients and athletes who've had a slight difference in their muscle bulk, but they're completely able to produce the same amount of strength and force on that side, if not even more than the uninjured side. So just because you have smaller muscles doesn't always mean that you have weaker muscles. Some people, if you're lucky, they might actually measure, they'll take out a tape measure and they'll put the tape around your muscle bulk and they'll actually compare the side to side. So let's say the one side circumference is, 15 centimeters, and then the other side is like 20 centimeters. So again, that is, at least they're tracking numbers, and maybe over time you can progress and track if that number is going up. But again, muscle bulk is not a valid measure of strength, power, or even athleticism. So moving on. What you should be looking at if you want to be safely and confidently be graduated from ACL rehab are a few things. We're going to go over strength tests first, right? So this is calculating how much strength you have. These muscles are going to be primarily the quadricep muscles, which is super important for day-to-day activities like going downstairs, going upstairs, walking, bending down, right? But when you look into sports, you're going to think of things like acceleration, you're going to think like sprinting. All those key factors are used by the quads. So let's break these down one by one. I'm going to start with the gold standard. So the best is going to be an isokinetic machine, right? You might hear of this like the Biodex or the Cybex. Looks something like this, very bulky. It's very kind of like robot-like, right? You're kind of strapped into the seat and you're going to have to push against this machine because it's going to give you a force against your leg and you're going to have to fight against it essentially. And it does this by calculating like the speeds and the angles and things like that. So it's very accurate. It's very hard to compensate with this because you're kind of strapped into the seat. So I would say this is still the gold standard, but it is very expensive. It's not accessible, right? So very low accessibility. So these things you can find in university settings, in maybe some specialized sports lab settings, but it's just not going to be available in a clinic setting. To buy something like this would be like $30,000, right? So not a lot of people are going to do that. So this is the gold standard. If you have accessibility to one, this is definitely the thing to go for. The second thing is becoming a little bit more available now. It's something called isometric dynamometers. So there's this little yellow device here. It doesn't have to be yellow, but it could be a little device like this where you clip it onto an ankle strap like this, ankle strap, and then you strap it around an anchor behind you. So with this, right, you're basically trying to move the strap as hard as possible, but it's not going to move. It's going to stay in this exact angle. And then with you pulling on that force, it's going to actually give you some data to show you some of the numbers that you're able to produce, right? So how much force are you able to produce in this certain angle? This is quite useful, and this is something that a lot of clinics are starting to use nowadays. And because they're a little bit more affordable to purchase, somewhere around $400 to $800 to purchase. In a clinic, some clinics are starting to have it. So this is pretty accurate, right? As long as the setup is the same every single time, you can track your quad strength. In this case, this person on this angle is doing a quad test. in this test, you can track month 1, month 2, month 3, and etc. with the same angle. You can actually see the progress over time, right? Where it becomes a potential problem is if you have inconsistent setup each time, right? So because this is not a standardized test, meaning it's not where you do the same exact environment every time. Like maybe the bench is a little higher the next time. Maybe the angle of the test of your leg is different. So that's all going to play a matter in the results. So I would say this one is a little bit more accessible, portable. You can test it yourself if you decide to buy one, or you can go into a clinic that has one. And the validity or reliability of this type of test is pretty good. So this is a good option for sure. Moving on. If you don't want to buy anything, if you want something very easy to do by yourself, right? This is self-administered test. You can use something like a leg extension machine, right? Again, we're speaking about the quads, where you just need a gym membership essentially to use this. While this is not a true gold standard measure, it does give a good general idea of the comparison of your left and right side, right? So what you can potentially do is like do a 5 rep max test, where you start with the uninjured side and you're basically doing as much weight as you can for 5 reps. So you find out what your weight is that you can do for 5 reps max. Let's say it's 200 pounds. And then you take your injured side and you do the same. And then you see how much weight you're actually able to do on the injured side compared to the other side. So for example, if you do 200 pounds, 5 reps on the uninjured side, and you're able to do 100 pounds on the injured side, that means your general asymmetry is about 50%, right? Again, this is not the cleanest way to do it, but if you have nothing else, no access to anything else, and just a gym membership is all you need, and you can do this basically today or tomorrow whenever you see this video. So this is definitely a good start. Moving on to power. So when we talk about power, we're not talking about just about strength. We're talking about how fast can you move that strength? How fast can you move your body, right? So jumping is a skill of power. Landing is a skill of power. We're gonna break these down. So going again from kind of the gold standard here. The gold standard are force plates. So these are gonna be these 2 plates, generally 2 plates that's on the ground, right? They measure force that you produce. So when you stand on them, when you jump on them, they measure how much force you're putting into the plates. So when you push off from each leg, because there's 2 of them, 1 for each leg, they're able to individually assess what the left leg is doing versus the right side. With this, most people don't buy force plates, right? Even clinics are very slow to adopt them in their practice. So you might have to seek out clinics or labs that offer force plate testing for your rehab, but they are generally becoming more accessible over the years, especially the last few years. Now there's more data on technology being used for clearing people from rehab safely. So definitely this is something that you want to seek out for, right? And the validity, the accuracy is very accurate, right? Because it's pretty much the same test every time. You can't really mimic it, and it's very easy to use as well. So this is my personal favorite. Moving on. So let's say we don't have access to force plates. What can we do instead? We can look into apps, right? So there's these apps now. I'm not going to say the name of the app because there's many out there. There's apps where you can actually record a video of you jumping, right, in slow motion. And you can actually pinpoint when you take off and when you land. And those pinpoint chapters essentially can let the app know how high you're jumping, right? So there's a jump height measure here. And it gives a general idea of how much forces of newtons that you're producing into the ground. Now, this is through a phone, right? So it's super accessible. You can buy the app yourself, which is going to cost you 10 to 20 bucks. Or you can have somebody like a practitioner or an expert who knows how to record you properly, right? That's probably more accurate. Very accessible because it's on a phone. That's all you really need. But there's a big question mark on, what's the validity and reliability? Because it's using essentially the video that you're sending, right? There's no actual physical movement. There's no actual physical force driven into the there's no plates or any type of object. This is basically how high you jumped, how long it took for you to jump based on the video, and how fast it took you to land. So they're giving very kind of a general sense of your jump. Again, this is good, right? This is good, but it's not the best, right? If you have nothing else to you have no resources for force plates or anything like that, then this is something that you can look into. And the last option, you might have seen this before, is something called the hop tests. This has been around for decades, and a lot of people in the past have been cleared from ACL rehab using hop tests, right? So one of them is going to be the triple hop, right? You can see in this picture here, there's like a crossover hop, right? So there's 3 different hops on one leg crossing over, and it gives a general sense of how somebody is doing, right? The problem with this is there's a lot of compensation patterns, right? The way somebody jumps from on the left side versus somebody jumps on the right side could be completely different. Although somebody has similar metrics, let's say it's showing 8 out of 10 athleticism on the left and then 8 out of 10 athleticism on the right side. Although they may be comparable, the way in which they do the jumps might look completely different. So for ACL rehab, you definitely want to be careful, right? Because compensations of the knee can happen. We want our knee to be completely confident and strong when we graduate, because when that knee is not confident and is compensating, let's say using the hip or the ankles, it's going to expose itself in high demand situations. For example, things like sport accelerations, change of directions, pivoting, cutting, all those things. It's hard for your body to cheat those, right? Because at some point, we need our bodies to fully integrate. We need all our parts of our body to be fully ready to go, right? We can't have the knee lagging or slacking, because that's going to show up. And so that's the problem with these kind of tests, is that even though somebody's producing good numbers on the injured side, it doesn't mean they're doing it with a good quality. So the good thing about this is it's a free test, right? You can do it yourself, or you can have somebody administer it with you. It's very accessible. All you need really is a field or ground to do the test, and it gives good general reliability. So each time you do it, you can track the progress. It's just not valid. It's not accurate. It's not a good way to measure how your knee is doing. That's pretty much it, guys. So we went over the 6 tests today and what to avoid. And what you should avoid would be somebody pushing into your leg and saying that you're confident and strong enough to go back to sports. If you like this video, please give it a like, leave it a comment, maybe click subscribe, and then I'll keep shooting videos like this so it'll be helpful for your ACL rehab. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.